welcome back to Retro Tech Toys. We've got a Mac SE30 that I bought from Facebook Marketplace. You can see here it's kind of dirty. I've already got it taken apart. The CRT's kind of filthy, and everything inside of it's dirty. I turned it on already to see if it worked, and it was a little funky. It kind of works. There's a line going through the screen, and there's some other weird issues. And I think it's probably the capacitors, because these capacitors are absolutely disgusting, and I'll show that to you as soon as we get this taken apart. Okay, so the first thing that I noticed when I got this apart was that this ribbon cable did not want to come out, and in fact it looks like it has been jammed in there pretty heavily. I don't know by who. This is the first time that I've had this unit apart. It could just be a really old cable, or it could have been put in incorrectly. I don't know. It doesn't want to come out. I don't want to mess up any pins or anything. Let me go ahead and just try to do this the old-fashioned way. Just gonna give it a wiggle. There we go. Okay, I got it out. The cable still looks okay. It just looks like it was this piece here. These plastics are always so brittle, so you do have to be careful. I think this cable's fine. I'm actually just gonna glue that back together and that'll be good to go, hopefully. Okay, so we have the board here. I don't know if you could see this very well, but the board itself is pretty gross. It's hard to see, but I mean, it's dusty. And the first thing I noticed, at first when I took this board apart, I thought the capacitors were okay until I saw this gunk here. And these capacitors are not okay. They are leaking, and while it might not be all of them, they're starting. I'm starting to see a little bit of white around here on this one, a little bit of white around here. There's gunk all over this one. Gunk all over this one, even though I don't see anything on the board yet, so that's good. So we've got a bad battery. Let's go ahead and get that out first. One thing I'm surprised about is this battery is not leaking at all. And if you look at the date on this battery, if that's the correct date, it looks like 1989, so this is actually an original battery. Let's put that to the side. I do have another battery that will go in here later. It's a new battery. You could still get these. It's super easy to get them. We got a full complement of RAM chips here. If I had to guess, this looks like 8 megabytes. We've got another capacitor here, and oh my god, the thing I hate is there are so many surface-mounted capacitors on this board. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you've got 8 capacitors there, and then you've got this guy here, and then you've got this one, which should be pretty easy to change out. And then this guy here should be pretty easy to change out. They look good, but we're going to change them out anyway. What I want to do is I want to go ahead and get these surface-mounted capacitors out. And I know so many people use the brute force method, which is, you see these pliers here? They'll take and they'll twist these off. I don't like to do that. I'm not going to do that. We don't brute force things like this around here. That doesn't, nothing bad to anybody who does. I don't, that's totally fine. You do what works for you, and we're going to do what works for us over here. And I don't like to brute force anything. If you are careful, you could take a heat gun. You can grab these after you heat them up, and they should lift right off without hurting any traces or any pads or anything like that. I'm not going to show that right now because there's so many different episodes of YouTube shows where people show you how to take these things off and put them back on. I'm just going to go ahead and get these things off so we can clean this board up. Okay, I'm back. I have the board here. As you can see, I was able to get all the stuff off except for this guy here. I'll take care of this later. But I got all of those disgusting capacitors off. And I saved one so you could have a look at it here. And we can sort of pick this apart and look at it. And you could sort of see... You can sort of see the nasty... Maybe if the camera would focus. All that nasty white garbage. And, you know, not only does it corrode the board, but these things get super brittle. Look at that, you can just pick it right apart. Freaking legs fall off of them. So you really need to get these out of your SE as soon as you can. Alright, next, I'm going to go ahead and clean this board up. We're going to use some vinegar. And then we're going to go ahead and recap this with the surface mount caps that I bought. Now, I did not buy the same caps over again. This arrived today from our friends over at Console 5. And we've got a fresh set of tantalum caps. We've got two bigger capacitors that I'll install here and here, and this should bring this computer back up to perfect working order. Okay, I got some vinegar going there, and that's distilled white vinegar. That's going to be to clean the board off. One place we're going to need to clean is right here. If you can see, there's a big layer of rust right there on the board, and I'm hoping some vinegar and a toothbrush will take care of that. And if not, we're going to put some baking soda on it. Gotten a lot better. That's actually eating the rust, or at least cleaning it off. You see that right there? That's much less than it was. I mean, that's a fraction of what we were dealing with. That looks pretty good, although it's not perfect. What I'm probably going to do is take some baking soda and apply some baking soda and distilled water to that in equal parts, just make a paste. And I'm going to let that paste sit there for 30 or 40 minutes. And then I'm going to scrub it off and clean it. And I'll do that off camera, and we'll come back. For now, I'm just going to take this, these are hair dye brushes, and they work great for basic cleaning and dusting. As far as cleanliness, that is a massive improvement. I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to flip it over and do the other part. Got the bottom dry now. Let's go ahead and clean this up. Thankfully, I don't see any garbage from the capacitors on the board, so that's good. When I'm done doing this cleaning, I'm going to clean everything off again with distilled water and then let that dry. I decided to go ahead and show everyone how I do the surface mounted caps. I have very shaky hands under normal circumstances, so you know, this is how I do it, and there you are. First I'm going to get my flux pen, and then I'm going to put a little bit of solder onto the fresh pad here. I'm going to get some onto the other. There you go. That looks pretty good, maybe a little bit too much. We grab our tantalum surface mount cap. It's hard to see because of the focus, but the line is for positive. How I do is I just sit it on top and hit it with the tip of the soldering iron, and then I hit the other side with the soldering iron. I'm trying to do it at an angle where you can see it. Just to show everybody, they aren't the straightest, but they are all on. And that's awesome. It didn't take very long. This took me about 15 minutes after I prepped the board. So next what I want to do is I want to get this cap off and this cap off, and we'll replace those, and then this. Alright, the board is completely recapped, and I'm going to go ahead and put this battery in. This is a fresh battery. Like I said, you can get these anywhere. I ordered mine from Amazon. Get that in there so we can update the time and the date, and now we're good to go. The last thing I want to do is, this was really rusty. This is a bracket that holds the network ports that mount to the back of the unit, and I just wanted to get some of that rust off if I can. I'm going to work on it more later, but I want to get as much as I can off right now. That's pretty important, and since the whole thing was rusted onto the bracket, I just have to clean it like it is, and I'm going to be really careful. Hit it a little bit with this wire brush and just get some of that rust off. Alright, it's back together as you can see. It's still a little dirty. I'm going to change that CRT out, and I'll explain why in a little bit. You'll see why I want to do that. If everything works when I turn this unit on, I think you'll see what's going on. And if you see there's a line through the CRT, I think that's actually an issue with the CRT itself. I can sort of see it even when the CRT is turned off, and it's not dirt. I can't clean it. So I'm going to go ahead and change out the CRT. Not a big deal. I've got a spare one here. And I'll go ahead and fix that widescreen stuff too and make that all the correct dimensions after I replace the CRT. And I've got a nice bright one. And look at that, the Mac works great. It turns on, everything loads up. It seems to be loading a little bit faster than it was before. And hey man, maybe that's because of the recap, who knows? Maybe I'm just imagining things. But part 2 of this is coming up in a couple of days, or as soon as I get it filmed. We're going to clean up this Mac a little bit more. I can't retrobrite it because it's not very sunny outside right now. But we're going to clean it up. I'll change that CRT out and maybe do a little bit more work inside the unit. And then we'll test it out. And then after that, we'll explore it and see what we can do with this thing. Try to get it on the internet and all that. There's that line on that screen. Oh, I don't like that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching Retro Tech Toys. Stay safe. We'll see you next time with a new video.